Section 2-4 is called writing linear equations. And you'll recall from Algebra 1 that the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the number that represents the slope and b is the number that represents the y-intercept. And remember, the y-intercept is the point at which the graph crosses the y-axis. Let's take a look at an example here. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line graphed below. Now, in order to write it in slope-intercept form, I need to find out what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. And I'm basically then just going to plug those numbers into this equation. Well, the easiest one to start with is the y-intercept. I just need to look for where the graph crosses the y-axis, and that's this point right here. So my y-intercept is -4. Now, to find the slope, I'm going to figure out what do I have to do in terms of moving up and down, and then right or left, to get from one point on the line to the other. So let's take this point right here. Well, I'm going to start with this one right here that crosses the x-axis, and I'm going to move to this point down here in the third quadrant. So first, what I need is my change in my y, and that's my up-down direction. And if I notice, from this point to this point, I'm actually going down 2. So my change in y is going to be a -2. And then I need to know how much I go left or right. And since I have to go to the right, that's going to be a positive, and that's going to give me a +3. So my slope is going to be my change in y, which is -2, over my change in x, which is 3. And I can actually pick any 2 points on the line, and in this case I drew my little right angle down below, but I can actually do the same thing up above. Let's say I want to use these 2 points down here in the fourth quadrant. If I want to go from this point to that point, I would have to actually go up 2, and that's going to give me a change in y of a +2. And then I have to go left 3, and that's a change in x of -3. And +2 over -3 is exactly the same thing as -2 over +3. So it doesn't really matter which 2 lines you choose, or which 2 points you choose, or which direction you move. You're always going to get the same slope. Now, to make my final answer, I just plug in -2/3 for m, and a -4 for b, and x and y stay in the equation. And that's the equation of that pink graphed line in slope-intercept form. Another way to write the equation of a line is point-slope form. And this is useful if you're given a point on the line and the slope of the line. So this equation is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And in this case, the x and the y are going to stay in the equation, but x1, y1 is a point on the line, and again, m is the slope. So let's see how we might use this. So I need to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b, that has a slope of -3/5 and passes through the point 5, -2. So let's go ahead and label a few things. So slope-intercept form is going to be y equals mx plus b. My slope is my m, slope is m, -3/5. My x1 is going to be 5, and my y1 is going to be -2. And I'm going to use point-slope form to do this, since I'm given a point and I'm given the slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And let's just plug those numbers in. Plain old y stays y. y1 is -2, but I need to do minus a -2. My slope is -3/5. X stays x, and my x1 is 5. Now I just need to turn that into slope-intercept form. I'll clean it up a little bit here by making that a plus. And so I have y plus 2 equals -3/5 x, oops, forgot my x, plus 3. -3/5 times a -5 gives me a +3. And then to rearrange it into slope-intercept form, I just need to subtract 2 on each side. So y equals negative 3/5 x plus 1. And that's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through the point 5, negative 2, and has a slope of negative 3/5. Here's an example where I don't have the slope, but I'm given 2 points. This says, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through the point 2, negative 3, and through the point negative 3, 7. So I have 2 points, but what I don't know is the slope. But I can find that pretty easily by using the slope formula. So y2 minus y1 is going to be 7 minus a negative 3. x2 minus x1 is going to be negative 3 minus 2, or 10 over negative 5, or my slope is negative 2. Now I have my slope, and I can actually use either one of these points in my formula. Either one of these can be x1, y1. If I had one that had 2 positive numbers, I'd probably use that, but let's just go ahead and use this one here. And again, I'll use my point-slope form of the equation of a line, because that's convenient since I'm given a point and the slope. And I'm going to plug in what I know. So y minus 7 equals negative 2 times x minus a negative 3. Be careful when you're subtracting a negative. Don't forget to put two little minus signs in there. Y minus 7 equals 2x minus 6. Distributing and then adding 7. Y equals negative 2x plus 1. And that's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that goes through the point 2, negative 3, and negative 3, 7. And I'm not going to take the time to do it, but you would get exactly the same answer. The steps here would look a little different, but you'd get exactly the same answer if you use the point 2, negative 3. So it really doesn't matter which point you use. Recall also from Algebra 1 that parallel lines have the same slope. Parallel lines never intersect each other. They have the same slopiness. And perpendicular lines are lines whose slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, remember perpendicular lines form a right angle, and their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So if the slope of one was negative 5, the opposite reciprocal would be a positive 1/5. Basically flip the fraction. If the original slope was 4 over 7, the opposite reciprocal would be negative 7 over 4. So you want to flip the fraction and then change the sign. Let's take a look at a couple examples. Here I need to write the equation of the line that is parallel to the line y equals 3/4 x plus 8 and passes through the point negative 6, 6. So I need a line that's parallel to this one but goes through that point. This point here is not on this line. Now, since the lines have to be parallel, they're going to have the same slope. So the slope of the line that I'm going to use, or the slope I'm going to use, is 4/3, and then I'm going to use the point negative 6, 6. So I'm going to do basically what I've done in the last couple examples. Use point-slope form and plug those numbers in. So y minus a negative 6 equals 4/3 times x minus a negative 6. Turn those into pluses. Minus a negative is plus a positive. And we'll distribute. Four thirds times 6 over 1. You can use your calculator if you'd like to, but that turns out to be 8. And I will subtract 6 from both sides because I need. Generally, if they don't ask, you're going to want to put it in slope-intercept form. So y equals 3/4 x plus 2. So that is the equation of a line that is parallel to this given line, y equals 4/3 x plus 8, But this line that I found goes through the point -6, -6, which means if I were to plug a -6 in for x and a -6 in for y, it would actually work out. Let's take a look at an example that involves perpendicular. Write the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals 4x plus 6 and passes through the point 10, 2. Remember, if two lines are perpendicular, their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. So the slope of the given line is 4, but that's not the slope I'm going to use. I need the perpendicular slope, or the opposite reciprocal of 4, which is going to be -1/4. That's the one I'm going to use, so I don't get confused. I'll cross that one out. And then I'm going to use the point 10, 2. And we'll plug it into our point slope form. So y minus 2 equals a -1/4 times x minus 10. Let's distribute. -1/4 x, and -1/4 times 10 gives me a positive 5/2, and adding 2 to each side, you're welcome to do that in your calculator if you'd like, gives me the line y equals -1/4 x plus 9/2, or if I were going to graph it, I would probably turn that 9/2 into 4.5 just to make it a little bit easier. So that's the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line y equals 4x plus 6 and passes through the point 10, 2. You can tell just by looking at the slopes that these two lines are going to be perpendicular to each other because their slopes are opposite reciprocals. -1/4 is the opposite reciprocal of a +4.